right, welcome to episode 4 of Behind the Screens for the Relics of the Ancients campaign. If you're one of my players, don't keep watching because it'll ruin stuff for you, but everybody else, let's roll. Alright, so Relics of the Ancients session 4 was a big one for the group. We had them going through the relics, or I should say the ruins, and found the relic after much battle and sneaking around and encountering different things, namely at the end one of the Shadow Guardians, which is a creature I've just based on a shadow from the monster manual and just tweaked it a little bit. But the idea is it's somehow connected to one of the PC's past. So these Shadow Guardians and shadows that are kind of seeping through into the world are from crossings where the Feywild or the Shadowfell were sort of, that veil was thinnest. That's kind of how most of the creatures from Fey or Shadowfell, at least in my world, cross over and become part of the prime material plane. The idea here is that there was something making that crossing a little bit more susceptible. And the real key is that the Shadowfell creatures are sort of at odds with what the Fey realm is doing, and they're wanting to corrupt any of the Fey sort of veils and make them veils to the Shadowfell and hopefully move more troops, so to speak, into the prime material plane. But it's still unknown what the purposes are and all the things around that, although they'll find out a little bit more towards the end. Happened to happen that way, but anyway, I digress. Let's get back to where we started. So they appeared in this casino because of the Donran ruins, the obelisks, and somehow the orb triggered the obelisk. They don't know this per se, but they have a hunch, I think, that the orb triggered the obelisk to transport them. And these obelisks throughout all of Ventus are sort of markers for where there were some type of either settlement or building or lab or some outpost of the ancient Donran Empire. And they used these to transport between one facility to another. And so that happened accidentally for them, but for others later on, you'll see that it was very purposeful how it was used. So they are really kind of taken back that they found their way into this casino, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So that's what they're trying to do. And what is the challenge to them figuring out what's going on? Well, they're hit right off the bat with one of the security guards saying, hey, you need to give up your weapons, or I'm going to call the constables. You're not supposed to have weapons in here. And you either start drinking or start playing some games. And so they did both. They started drinking and playing some games. It's important to note here that I had a loose idea of what I thought was going to happen, but I left it pretty wide open as far as what they could do. So I knew I was going to have a table where they were going to be able to do a Taroko reading. I knew that they were going to be able to either play and maybe win. They were going to be able to play some games and maybe lose. They could try to cheat and maybe they'd get away with it. Maybe they would cheat and get caught. Or they could have just skipped this altogether. I was hoping they were going to play, but they could have skipped all this stuff altogether and just left to investigate somewhere else. They could have had a couple drinks. The key thing here, though, is that they were exhausted and they were low on hit points and they needed to rest, and they were hoping that they would be able to kind of camp out here, but they had to kind of play by the rules and become a patron of the establishment so that they could get a room and make it all work. So that's kind of where they were. You saw how the gambling went. It went pretty well. I used games that I had found online that were sort of analogs of some things in real life. So Stiletto Spin is sort of an analog for roulette, and it just uses a 20-sider. If you guys want more information, put a comment below and I'll send you the rules I have. They're pretty basic. And then Alder's Coin is sort of a betting game where you have some dice that you're betting, and it's sort of like you can raise, you can bet, you can raise, you can call in a similar way to poker, but it's really based on what you rolled and the dice you have in the total. So again, we didn't play that one, but I'll send you some information, or I'll post some information if you are interested. Let me know. I also had one of the NPCs that was playing at one of the tables, and he's slowly playing to be nonchalant and work his way from table to table, kind of playing the games, and Terrence is kind of moving towards the office in an inconspicuous way. And the reason that the players didn't see him earlier is because they chose to play at tables on their own, which is completely fine. I gave them the choice of, hey, did you want to go find a table with other people and other patrons that are playing and kind of play with them? They chose to stay on their own, which makes sense because, they basically just got blinked in and were trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, it makes sense completely. But because they were playing by themselves, they didn't get that chance to really see him earlier and to run into him. They did play a couple games. One of the things I thought went really well was the Taroka reading. I really didn't use any of the Taroka rules other than I found a really good resource. I'll post it in the description where it kind of breaks down how to do the Taroka deck by rolling percentile, at least choosing the cards, because I didn't have them here physically to be able to actually pick a card. So that was pretty cool to be able to do the percentile. Again, I'll post it in the comments or in the description so you can see where that was. I think it was a PDF I bought through DM's Guild or DriveThru RPG, one of those two. And then the other thing is this was completely improvised as far as what the results were. Based on what the character was going through, based on what I knew happened in the game, I could really play this like, a cold reading of a person and kind of play this up. So this was just my ideas of what I thought would fit for the past, present, and future. The rolls were 100% accurate. Whatever they rolled is what I picked the card. So it was just me trying to turn those responses into something that was feasible for the person playing, which I thought went well. They won a little bit, lost a little bit. I had some notes on what I wanted the Silverbeard, which was the Silverbeard Casino, I wanted the employees to be. And here's how I kind of do this, unless I need to have more. Here's a way I do my notes. So here's a good example of Duster, right? So Duster was the half-orc security that came up to him originally. So I usually put a line saying what his description's like. So he's massive, he's muscular, he's dressed in tailored shirt and slacks, he's wearing a cap kind of like mine, and I usually put a note on personality. And so to do this, one of the things that I think is helpful, and I recommend this for you as well, is to just put a quote that you think they would say, or that's something that they say all the time. Because if you have some type of voice or accent, mine were all probably crazy, but I wanted to make them fit the characters as best I could. And hopefully I didn't offend anybody with any accents I was doing. I was just doing them off the cuff based on what I wrote down. So I wanted him to have a calm, assertive, but kind of put off by everything. Like he was annoyed by anything they were going to say, and sort of a vaguely deep Eastern European. Nothing's going to be accurate when it comes to being accents. So as weirdly Eastern European as it might sound. And then I said something like, of course you're just standing around. And that was a way for me to kind of, dig into that. I also had Madame Gale, who was the person that was doing the Taroka deck. Again, a little description, a little bit about her personality, dreamy voice. And then I had Regan, which they did not run into, which this one to me was sort of like, if you've seen Penny Dreadful, it was going to be played a little bit like Ferdinand Lyle from Penny Dreadful. And his quote that I love is, "Would you bring your gun belt?" And so that would have been my personality / voice for him. And then it just goes from there. I don't think they ran into Eloise at all. She was going to be my analog. And again, sometimes it's just a matter of putting a note down about another character from media that some type of movie or TV show. And for me, I was going to play her kind of like Tasha Yar. And that was my way of remembering to get into this character. Ones they did see was they saw Mr. Dupree was the tiefling that was running the table. This, not from a personality standpoint, but from a from a voice standpoint, I just thought it would be fun to do, the don't mess with the Zohan voice. And actually, it was from Saturday Night Live. They had a skit that Adam Sandler and a few others did. You like it to juice? And so I said, well, we're going to do, you like it to spin the knives? So that was my way of getting into that. And I'm not even doing it right now just because I'm laughing my way through it. But anyway, that was my way of, reaching into the character. And Rial was sort of my Anna Delvey bad accent, and it was sort of a put off. Oh, wonderful! I'm so glad you are winning. How nice for you. And so this, again, me not doing them in earnest right now, just kind of taking you through how I would do it. The response to those games were, I thought, from a Laura standpoint, she was really holding back because and from a player standpoint, Melanie was just worried that she was going to die, like worried that her character was not going to make it. There was a little bit of an issue with her D&D Beyond sheet, so it made her have less hit points than she really should have. So even more played into that, which at any rate, we fixed it. But and then, so she was very surprised when at the end of all of those games, I had them roll a perception check, and they actually did see Terrence at that point when he was leaving. And so both Alora and Henrik spotted him, and that's when they were going to go see what was going on. And then the other thing, the Taroko reading, I think, went over really, really well. And then finally, we had sort of moving into how are they going to handle the Terrence... spelled it wrong again, but Terrence on his way out of the room. Were they going to follow him? Were they going to wait and, rest up and then go look for him in the city? Didn't know what they were going to do, but Henrik was fast to act and went looking for him, which meant there was a couple ways that this could have gone. So that moved into really the second encounter. We had a break then, we came back, and then it was, what are you guys doing? The party split. And so at this point, they're discovering, what's going on with Terrence. And once they know what the new people are, and what I call meet the players, the new people that are kind of showing up, they could possibly, because most of you have already seen, they had Terrence meeting up with Drayan. Terrence and Drayan are backstory characters for Henrik, but Terrence is also a backstory character for Alora. That was the connection. They didn't know, neither one of the player characters knew that the other one knew Terrence, and it was sort of a, whoa, what's going on here? And so that's something that will likely play into how the fifth game actually plays out. There was a little bit of a battle, but then really great idea and great role playing by Carrie, and a great move by his character was to bamf out of sight, and he used Misty Step to get out of there and appear on the roof. And then they didn't see him by my rolling, and he was able to actually hear the conversation between them. They were waiting on a third person, so both Drayan and Terrence were talking, and then you could hear sort of a whispery voice from the background somewhere, in addition to what happened when Henrik was there. Drayan and Terrence kept having a conversation with this Zrisha that nobody saw. And so they could have fought and beat them. They didn't do that. They could have fought and got their butt whooped. They didn't do that either. They could have fleed away. The PCs could have left. There's all kinds of things that could have happened. So I let a few things happen here. I made some notes if they observed from afar, what they were going to hear, what they were going to see, if they engaged directly, what happened, which combat. So in the end, the game really let me pull from these notes, which were what they would see from afar, and from this indication of combat, because combat ended pretty abruptly, and then they got a chance to overhear this stuff because of basically good rolls and bad rolls on my part. So it worked out good. They also found some information about who these people are. That seems to be that they are a group of people called the Shadow Seekers. This is a cult of people that are worshiping the Shadowfell, but also trying to use these Donran artifacts to open the veil wider for the Shadowfell creatures to come through. This is sort of being engineered by a Shatterkai, and a Shatterkai, for those of you that don't know, it's an elven species that is in the Shadowfell. Normally it's associated with the Raven Queen. Not sure if I'm going to take it that route or not, but this is actually a Gloomweaver. She's sort of the leader. She's the one that's kind of pushing all this stuff through. So I think through gameplay and through conversations between the PCs, they'll discuss and put some more things together about what's going on. I think, oh, by the way, I don't have this information yet. When we ended, what I did, and this is key as a part of how to do the hero's response. So for the hero's response, if you can do it during the game, it's awesome. If you're like me and you ran it pretty late, I did this via email. I said, hey, I'm going to follow up with what you guys want to do, so let me know before the next game, and that's what everybody's doing. So I've already got a couple emails in. We've got an email thread, and it's just literally me asking these questions of their characters, and they're responding back, so I'll know how to plan for the next game, because I'll know what they finally choose and then where to go. Here's the other thing, and this is what I was able to fill in. So you normally see me put the hero's response to the encounters. What you haven't seen me do really yet was the antagonist response, because this is really the first time that a living antagonist was around to have a response after meeting up with the heroes. So this is one of those things too where a lot of times, I got the question actually this week about, I want to be a player and I'm stuck DMing all the time. Well, to scratch that itch of being a player, don't think of your NPCs just as NPCs that are static. Think of NPCs as other characters that are growing with the story and changing with the story. And so I want to make sure that I'm noting the reaction. So I'm not just playing one character, I'm playing a lot of characters, but I'm playing them from the aspect of what I think they would do in these situations, to help make the story progress from the bad guy's point of view. They don't think they're bad guys, right? So Terrence, for example, spelled it wrong again, is freaked out and he's shaky, and it was kind of made evident even in that game where he was kind of lighting a cigar and shaking as he was doing it. He wasn't expecting to see both Alora and Henrik there. He's confused why they would even be together, and why they would be all the way across the continent in Grand Ridge, and he feels like he's in over his head with the Shadow Seekers. So it's important for me to make these notes and think this through so that I know how to play Terrence the next time he's encountered. Drayan, for the other hand, is surprised that Henrik is there. He doesn't know Alora or Riva, but he knows Henrik, and he's kind of surprised that he's there, but he wants to see him because he wants payback. And he also feels that because of this, the Athenaeum must know more than he thought they knew about. Now, they may not, and really, because Henrik and the others haven't been able to report back yet, they really don't know much more than what they knew when they set out on this quest. So he doesn't know that, though. Drayan thinks that the Athenaeum must know more than what he suspected. Zrisha, for the other hand, who they have never encountered before, but was there watching the events in the alley, is angered that anybody is on track. She can't believe that anybody is on to them at all, and she wants to go through and collect as many relics as she can, and will be much more careful moving forward. So this is key in how I play this character moving forward. The other thing is the position of them. This is something I don't know if you picked up on, but I don't know if the players picked up on it, but they went to the back alley because that was adjacent to where the obelisk was. So it was the other side of the wall of where the obelisk was part of the building. And so when they disappeared, they were using the orb that they had, and where they got that orb was from the office. It was for some reason a keepsake, and we haven't got into that because they didn't talk to the right people, not because they did anything wrong, it just didn't happen. So maybe we'll find out more about that in the next game, maybe we won't. The bad guys think that they're going to attempt to find other relics and report back to the Athenaeum, or both, and they're going to start moving as quickly as they can to get those relics, and now they are on guard. They're going to be ready for these new players because they know about them and they know something's going on, and at least Hendrik was seen following them. So yeah, lots of stuff in this last session. I thought it went really well. It was a little bit out of the norm for how we were playing things because I'd never really done in-game mini games remotely, and so I had to kind of limit how much actual cards I was able to do, and had to change card games into dice games. Yeah, it was interesting, but I think it went pretty well. Leave a comment if you have any more questions. I'm happy to answer them, but hopefully we'll see you next time, and we've got another gaming session this week, so cheers.